Welcome to Windows on the World with me, Mark Windows, bringing you cutting-edge news, empowering information and no conspiracy theories.
Are you a reporter for WLS? I was wondering if you could do a story about these planes leaving these big contrails. Yeah, because Karen Wynn said that her producer is going to do it this week, and if you don't, I want to let you guys know that we're going to come to your station and we're going to stand in front of it until you do. There's about me and maybe 50 of us that are really going to do that. And we're not going to take you guys not telling us the truth anymore about our son being blocked. What's your name? Ashley? I know it's always really important because Frank Pratcher, Jason Boyer, and Karen Wonder does too. Yeah, no problem. I'll wait for you. Well, there you go. WLOS. Hires as usual. Not telling the real news, fake news right there. We have to come together and we have to figure this shit out, and we got to get rid of these corporations, okay? Before we're all dead. Like Steve Messerschmidt, dead. Wake up dead at 55, all right? I am pissed right now, okay? I want the shit to stop. I want it to stop. I go to EPA things, I call these people, I record it. Why aren't you guys? Why aren't y'all posting on my page what you're doing? Why aren't you calling these goddamn war pigs out? Call them out. Go on their goddamn pages. Call them in their offices. Record them. Paste it. Post it. Spread it. Share it. We gotta do something. The shit's ramped up. They're ramping it up on us. And we gotta get goddamn ramped up too. You understand me? So get your shit together, everybody. Pay your goddamn fucking bills. Get out there. Get on the phone. Stop moping. Email somebody. Call a goddamn meteorologist, a scientist, a politician, a corporation out. Now, I got a real goddamn non-for-profit for this March for Monsanto's thing. We will have a GMO-free Western North Carolina and life. We will stop genetically engineering our skies, our water, and our food now. Here comes a goddamn dump truck. Weather warfare reporter, Soul Sister Sue, over and out. Do something and do it now!
Windows on the World caught up with Soul Sister Sue, an active campaigner fighting the tyranny of Agenda 21, GM crops and geoengineering. Her organic farm in North Carolina is called the Farmville Pharmacy. Her videos can be seen on her YouTube channel, The Chicken Chick Revolution. Sue joins us by Skype from North Carolina. Okay, Soul Sister Sue, welcome to Windows on the World.
Thank you for having me.
Well, that's great. We've looked at some of your videos. You're very passionate about what you talk about. You're in Western North Carolina, is that right?
Yes, I'm here at the Appalachian Mountains. I'm about an hour from a grocery store.
Right, and you've got an organic farm, is that right?
That's right. I think everyone will really love the name of my farm. It's the Farmville Pharmacy.
I thought that was very original. Now, you've been noticing the phenomena known as chemtrailing, which seems to be very prevalent in your area and in actual most parts of the world now. Indeed, pretty much all NATO countries. The first show I ever did was about chemtrails or geoengineering, and I've looked into it and the government documents. Can you tell us a bit about what you found in North Carolina?
Well, I'll give you a little bit of a background. I used to work at Disney World on the golf course in Orlando, Florida. And I started seeing, the trails behind the planes and all that. And I told my husband, you're crazy and all that. And then when we moved here, I would say within the last year or two, it was out of control. It was morning till night, covering the sun, leaving the long white milky haze that we all see and know now as the normal, which is not. And pretty much thought that, I could call some people and I was really going to take care of this, but it didn't seem to work out that way.
It is very frustrating, isn't it, when you see it being sprayed and that you feel kind of like there's nothing you can do about it. I think it's quite shocking at first because you're looking up and the sky is basically, that's the ceiling, it's like, what they're doing.
It's almost to the point where it's frustrating. You shake your head, you scream, you cry, you tell people. I tell people everywhere I go. I just point it out at them. Something interesting that did happen to me a couple of weeks ago, though, I would tell you about. I was at a little music festival and I was at the porta potty. And a nice older lady came up with a little grandkid, and I said to her, "Ma'am, did you see those clouds as a child?" And shockingly to me, she said yes. And then she said, "Honey, my husband works for the Air Force, and they're keeping us safe. You don't need to worry." And walked off.
That's really scary.
I didn't even know what to, I should have followed her and spoke to her husband or family or something, but I was in such shock that, at certain times I show it to people and they say they don't even see it. So I don't know.
Well, I think there's a lot of willful ignorance around, and also there's a lot of fear factor with this stuff because it's quite frightening when you really look into it. But I've pointed it out to people and they do actually notice it. It's amazing, though, how it's worked its way into the media. You're seeing it in films. I'm seeing it on products, like even things like washing powder. Have you noticed that?
And if you notice now, like you'll see a car commercial or something, you don't see a blue sky like you used to before. You'd see that car would be driving on into that, sunset and all that. You don't see that anymore. It's just the familiar milky white haze. And it's all over the globe. Like you said, this is happening every single place on the earth.
It does appear to be. And there are several reasons given. One is solar radiation management, and it's the amount of radiation being given off by the sun. But it also indicates that there might be a thinning of the ozone layer. But this stuff actually reportedly destroys ozone and depletes ozone. So there is a theory that they're just trying to basically patch it up because they've made such a mess of it. Have you got any ideas on that?
I did speak to a NOAA insider, the National Oceanic Atmospheric, blanking on the other A here, but any 3 or 4 letter government word, I have a 4-letter for. So anyway, he basically he's doing the data. There's 30 years of data on air monitoring, the pollution, the particulates that are in the air. And these stations are all around the world. And basically they're doing absolutely nothing with the data. And his solution is depopulation. He believes we should sterilize a generation of people so that we don't ruin the ozone any longer just by having a sustainable life. And he basically said that our electromagnetic field is as thin as a piece of paper if you were to take that piece of paper and put it into a circle. And it is weakening.
Well, when you get that level of programming, though, it's quite scary, isn't it? Because this is what they're doing. They're recruiting people into these governments and quangos, which are quasi-non-government organisations, which all filter down from the UN. We're doing a show about that this Sunday, actually, about Agenda 21, how this is tied in with it. But you are finding that there are a whole generation of people now brainwashed into climate change propaganda, and even a lot of older people. How do you manage to break that down? I mean, you've just told me that about this experience you had, but do you think generally people are brainwashed into that, or do you think it's a minority? What would you say?
I would say that they absolutely are conditioned to it. People, and there's good people all over the world, just like you and I, Mark, that are fighting against this. They've lost their family members over this. They can't even speak to their own daughters, sisters, brothers, moms, or dads. This has divided people all over the world over something that is so powerful, and it is affecting every single person on this earth right at this moment. Flora, fauna, everything. And it's divided everyone. And your intro is so, I mean, it's so that. Anunnaki to Illuminati. I mean, we can't count out anything from that to that.
Absolutely not. I mean, I go on about this a lot, but the programming of so-called civil servants and people who work in government is so off the charts that it is quite scary. And we've now found that this facilitator has been put into local communities under United Nations. Over here, it's done through an organisation called Locality and Unlimited, and they're training facilitators to go into communities, basically to shut down any dissent there might be against total state control. And we've found that this is really being played out, especially in Britain at the moment. I've been looking into it. It seems to have really escalated here. So as far as your local authorities go, you had some amusing interactions with them, I know that. But are you getting through at all? Are you getting through to these people?
Well, one of our local meteorologists, Julie Wonder, just quit. Sorry to see you go, Julie Wonder. Listen, we're going to make these people responsible for what they're doing. It doesn't matter who told you what to do, what you're doing, who's doing it, how you're doing it, how you're getting your paycheck. You're responsible. You're lying to us. Straight up lying to us, and we're not going to take it anymore. We're going to follow you around. We're going to ask the questions. We're going to demand the answers, and then we're going to move on, and we're going to put these criminals in jail where they belong for treason against the earth. The highest penalties. That's what's going to happen to these people.
I think that's great, and we need more people like you. But in actual fact, this whole thing is being done on the back of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. And they're saying that stratospheric aerosol radiation management is necessary to save the Earth, when in fact they're poisoning everyone to death and everything on it, like you just said. It's a complete irony, isn't it?
Yes, and when you hear that they're doing a study, they don't do these $1 million studies for nothing. They're already doing it. And their projections are wrong. I have the data. We all have the data. We've got to add data with our eyes. We know the sun is being blocked. Even if you want to count out everything else, you want to count out geoengineering, solar radiation management, aerosol spraying, whatever you want to call it, cloud seeding. Now I lost my train of thought. Sorry. It's affecting every single person. As on a personal level, here is city council. I don't know if you're familiar, but in California, they just had a meeting. The County of Shasta, it's just a farce. You call the EPA, they hang up on you. I don't know if you saw the one video where I was speaking to the assistant to Gina McCarthy, who is the head of the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency here in the United States. Her assistant, Terry Porterfield, was speaking to me and put me through to voicemail.
Hi, Terry. I believe I spoke with you before. My name is Sue Hilbig, and I was calling about the contrail clouding that's happening in the western North Carolina area. And I've called your stratospheric protection hotline several times now. It's been almost 3 weeks with no call back.
Voice message for Terry Porterfield. I don't know how that's doing it. Please record your message.
Hello?
Missed recording. Hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hello? Are you there, ma'am?
Windows on the World outside the BBC at Portland Place.
I would just like to say to BBC to tell the truth as our sign says, and do not take just one-sided arguments. See the other side, ask them. I haven't seen any interviews of Palestinian people. I haven't seen any interviews of Hamas or their side of story. I don't care what they say. I just want some sort of their side of story. I don't want one-sided story, so just tell us the truth.
We have to raise awareness. It doesn't matter if you're Muslim, you're Jew, you're Christian, whatever you are. If people are dying, stick up for them. Come on, that could be your kid.
Defend the little people, that's what I would say. You just have to defend them. People sit behind their TV screens flicking channels. They see something for a second, if so, and then they just change the channel. No one really cares. On my way here, like to the train and stuff, people were like, oh, they're protesting for that Palestine garbage, as if it means nothing. People just completely ignore that it's Palestine because the media makes it look so bad. I just hate the propaganda.
Please leave a voice message for Terry Porterfield. At the tone, please record your message. When you are finished recording, hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hi, Miss Porterfield. My name is Sue Yobig, and I was calling about your stratospheric hotline, protection hotline, that I have left several messages for, but they do not answer you. Also, Brian Manning. I'm calling in reference to the contrail clouding and the EPA's contrail fact sheet, which says that there are aluminum, metals, and other soot and products in there that is covering my son every day for the last 8 months, and no one will call me back. I would appreciate it if you call me back.
Welcome back to Windows on the World. I'm with Soul Sister Sue, and she's in North Carolina, Western North Carolina. And we've been talking about the worldwide geoengineering program, what we can do about it, how we can stop these corporations like Monsanto. And Sue's doing her best. She's been very vocal. She's got a very loud voice, and she's trying to make people listen. But Sue, coming back for this part of the show, you've got an exclusive for us. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Oh, I would love to. And I believe that everyone in the world needs to know this. And this is why I did this last year, but I didn't really know what my outcome was going to be. So last year, on the 4th of July, NASA, our lovely NASA, set off 2 rockets into our atmosphere and dispersed lithium so that they could check the ionosphere. They did this in the daytime at 11:37 in the morning in Wallop Island, Virginia, on the 4th of July. So first I called NASA in Washington, and I got a hold of Rand. Poor Rand. He was from the Philippines. He was told not to say anything about it. And, you know, this was right when we found out that the NSA is recording everyone. So guess what? You record me, I record you. And besides, you're a government agency. I pay you. He was so scared he was going to denounce his citizenship and go back to the Philippines. Of course, that had a little bit to do with the NSA spying on each and every one of us, each and every minute of each and every day. But that's another story. So I called NASA and I got a hold of the rocket scientist, Douglas Rowland, and asked him some questions about the lithium being dispersed into our atmosphere. And he proceeded to tell me that they had not done a lithium dispersal since 1970, but it's really important for us to check the ionospheric winds to help us learn about Earth and our weather and climate. So John Masseria, which is a great film director here in the United States, he decided to take my call and make a movie out of it. And it's called Following the Chemical Trails. And you can see that on YouTube. So then I was moseying about the Wallop Island website, and I noticed, hey, they're going to do it again. Can you believe that? Yeah, but this time they're going to disperse lithium, strontium, and barium into the atmosphere to check the ionospheric winds. And this cost $400 million, Mark.
And we're paying for it.
Oh, it gets better. Of course it gets better. Guess what? The rocket blew up 19 seconds into space on July 2nd from Wallop Island. Yeah, and they had to scrub it for 5 or 6 days because all the boats were in the launch site that was, you know, not a good area, like the launch hazard zone. And it's exactly where the rocket blew up into. Guess why you haven't heard about it or anyone else? I think that's pretty big news, right?
I think that's pretty big news, and I only found out about it by looking at some of the material that you'd sent in, so I knew nothing about that.
Yeah, and not one person here has said anything about it. And Douglas Rowland actually Well, he kind of admitted chemtrails in our phone conversation, but he basically was, you guys can all listen to the movie and judge for yourself, but he says that, everything has a chemtrail. You know about chemtrails, right? He said it like that, but, you could take that in context for anything. But this time, when I tried to even ask questions and I tried to post about the barium and the strontium, the heavy metals and the health hazards, I immediately got canned from Twitter and Facebook and email and everything else now. So I can't even contact them at all. And they haven't said a word about it since July 2nd. There's no reason or rhyme, or no one's going to tell us why it blew up and where our $400 million went.
It's absolutely disgraceful. But,
it's disgraceful.
I mean, this issue of lithium is quite interesting because they have now announced in their own documentation in this country that lithium is going into the water supply. Lithium salts into the water supply. Now, maybe people have had lithium in their water supply for years because I don't drink tap water anymore. But I'm pretty annoyed about that, and we need to do something about this. But that story you've just told me is typical, and it's typical of the bureaucracy that we're up against. We're getting stonewalled by these people, and we have to call them out and make them personally and publicly liable. Now, you can do that with local councils. You can do that with officers. But these people who are hiding behind these corporations, these are the ones we really need to go for now. And I know you've been trying that, haven't you?
I've been trying that for over a year now. I mean, like I said, I've called every 3 and 4 letter agency out there, and I could name them all: FAA, ATA, GAO, EPA, FDA, USDA. I mean, it goes NOAA, NASA. I mean, it goes on and on. I have recorded documentation of every single thing that I've done. I'm going to cover my butt, just like they are. So you know what? I have that screenshot of NASA, deleting me after one comment. Hey, I have a right to know why these chemicals are going into our atmosphere. That rocket didn't even make it a mile up. That's less than 5,000 feet into the atmosphere, everyone, in case you didn't know. I mean, this is insane. The things that are going on now are insane, and I am going to stop it. If one person can do anything, I will, and I will try, and I will die fighting and trying. So come and get me. Everybody's like, they're going to come and get you. They're coming to get us anyway. They are coming for you right now. Get prepared, do what you got to do, and then fight for your life, people. We don't have much time.
That's absolutely right. I wish there was more people like you in the world, Sue, because I get involved in this and I do a lot of research on many different subjects. And what is empowering is getting involved. When you're not involved, you're powerless. So why not empower yourself and then find your sovereignty? And when you find your sovereignty and that you're living under natural law, doing the right thing, then things can happen. But while you're sat there saying, well, what can I do? Well, you are just being a slave. And if you have that mentality, in my opinion, then in a way, I can see why these people who are controlling the planet think, well, they're children. We treat them like children. We give them game shows. We put stuff in their water to just make them compliant so they can do those little tasks that they have to do, their petty, tiny little lives. I can see I can see why they think the way they think, but I don't like them making the assumption that I can't think for myself. That's what really, really annoys me. And I don't like being treated like an idiot either.
Yeah, and I mean, when you get really getting down to it and you know that what they're putting into our air are heavy metals. Now, our air used to be neutral. It is not any longer. It's positively charged. So that plasma in the air is making these people and things, and all of our electromagnetic waves around us are affecting the frequency and vibrations of our body. This is science. This is not Soul Sister Sue talking. This is science. Now, these wireless beams that are coming into your body are affecting your brain, your neurons, your nerves, your water, everything in your body and every cell. So some of it I can see where the manipulation is not all of the people's fault. Some of it, I would say 20%. When you've got that phone that's sending these signals out to you, we don't know what kind of signals that they're sending us from the towers. We don't know. We don't know. Who needs, we have all of this internet. We're talking to each other across the pond right now. And we don't have a cell tower doing that. Most of the internet, 95% of it, comes from under the ocean. So all of these things are coming into play here, and they're affecting everybody and how they're thinking and how they're acting. I don't know if you've ever YouTubed the Prince video where he talks about chemtrails.
Yes, I've seen that.
Yeah, and when, I forget what the other gentleman's name is, when he starts talking about magnesium and how people react when they, this magnesium gets into their bodies. These heavy metals are making people go crazy too. The zombie thing is real. Yes, I believe it. These people, they can't, who goes somewhere, they can't even, not even look at their phone for a second. Come on. That is creepy.
It is, and you see people who've lost the ability to actually communicate properly. And it's all part of the planned distraction, really.
Oh yeah. You guys are getting hammered. And I mean, I've had people that are getting, I've done the research on the people getting sick in planes, not just aerotoxicity that Max Bliss does do a lot of research on, the pilots and the people working in the actual planes, but passengers getting sick and friends that I know that are flying and coming back home and getting very, very ill. I mean, very ill. But like my hubby says, because my husband, he backs me up and he's been working extra hard this last year so I can do all this. We're pretty much a couple, we're a duo in this. He's supporting it too. He actually went to Operation American Spring, which was a bunch of veterans and militia were going to go and arrest those war pigs in Washington, D.C. in May. And it was very disappointing. There were supposed to be 10 million people there, but about 2,000 showed up. And this is how disgusting they are. They were in the Capitol building, up on the building, and they were taking pictures, and we have video of this, and they asked somebody to move over so they could get the protesters behind them in the picture. That's how disgusting it is. But he says we're already genetically engineered. Between the chemtrails and the GMO, we are physically changing in our bodies, and we are becoming genetically engineered.
Yes, the evidence certainly does seem to point that way. And this is a massive program that's going on all over the world in every aspect of our lives, and our lives are being micromanaged by these lunatics. So great that you're doing something about it. We're doing our best over here. We'd like to have you on the show again. Would you like to come on again?
I would love to. Thank you, Mark. And thank you for bringing to light these important issues. And I just wish you the best. And thank you for doing everything you're doing. Seems like you're a real, genuine guy.
Well, do you want to give them a little bit of a Soul Sister Sue war cry to our international viewers?
I would love to. I'd like to say to all the people out there, do something and do it now. Because those, war pigs are up there and they're coming after us. They're coming after you. They're coming after your family. They're coming after your land. They're coming after your soul. So it's up to you now. You figure it out or you're going to come back the next time and it ain't going to be so pretty for you. And guess what? I'm going to be right behind there. And I'm going to make you responsible. And I'm going to put you in jail where you belong, you war pigs. Have a great day, everybody.
I'm really tired of how the media portrays everything here. It's so one-sided. Like you can see, we're not the only Muslims here. There's so many people from everywhere. There are Jews here. There's so many other people, not only Muslims. So I don't see why BBC calls it the Muslim cause. It's not. It's international. You need to get equal for everyone. And we just saw the BBC people up there just looking at us and taking videos and stuff. I dare you to put it on TV. I dare you to put us on live on TV and without editing anything and making it look like, oh, we use violence to do this, because there was no violence at all today. We were all just raising our voices and trying to put it out to everyone. So all I can say, I dare you, BBC, to put it on TV. All this. Thank you.
Stephen and Evan Strong are authors and researchers based in Australia. They are regular guests on Windows on the World and believe that humans may have originated out of Australia over 400,000 years ago. Their books include Forgotten Origin, Constructing a New World Map, Mary Magdalene's Dreaming, Ancient Australia and Shunned. Stephen and Evan tonight share some exclusive information with Windows on the World. Hi, Stephen and Evan Strong. Great to have you on the show. We've covered quite a lot of your work in the past, and you've got some news for us about a very anomalous object that's come into your possession. Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, look, it's an interesting object. What actually happened was this lady, I don't know if we can give a name up there, can we? We're working on that. She made contact with us. She actually originally made contact with the gentleman called Jake Cassers, like a local bushman. And if the satellites ever fall, I'm going to live with him because he can live in the bush like no one else. And she told him about what she had and sent a picture. Then he got in contact. Well, he told her to contact us. So she rang us up and she said she had this amazing artifact. Now, what she told us was it was excavated from a place called Carry On, which is within about 2 kilometres of the Bambara Glyphs, isn't it?
And as the crow flies, it's probably even...
Probably 1, yeah. We're very close to the Bambara Glyphs and all the stuff we've been finding. She said she had this amazing artefact. And we thought, oh, well, we've heard that before, haven't we?
We've heard many stories.
Oh, we've been in the bush many times.
Just peters out.
Yeah, where people say, they take us to sites and say, can you see that? And I'm thinking, I can't see a thing. But anyway, we persevered. Then we asked her, look, if you want us to come down, you're going to have to send us some pictures if it's as great as you think it is, which she did. And the pictures were quite amazing. But as you know, Mark, sometimes you can get pictures of sites and when you get there, it looks nothing like it. So we withheld all commentary until we actually saw it. And lo and behold, we spent a day on site with Michael Tellinger. And at the end of the day, we showed him pictures of this and he was quite taken by it. And he actually said, oh, this looks a lot like the Blombos rocks. Now, Mark, I don't know if you know much about them, do you? The Blombos rocks?
Well, for the sake of our viewers out there, can you just describe them and a bit of the background?
Yeah, well, to be honest, we were a bit embarrassed because he spoke about it like it was such a common thing. And I looked at Evan once and I could tell he had no idea what he was talking about.
That moment.
And at that moment, we thought, I sort of said, oh, yeah, it might be, but what are they? We never heard of them. But Michael was very good, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
There was no condescension. He explained what they were. And what they are is a series of rocks, and they were scratched on. And they were dated by mainstream, which is very important here, Mark, between 75 and 100,000 years old, found in South Africa, and considered to be the beginning of art and communication. This was where art and communication did. You know, this old out of Africa theory, this works perfectly.
Yes.
And so, okay, we thought, well, that's fine, and these might be close. They might be nearly as good, so that'll be interesting. But we were still in the dark, weren't we, Evan, because we really didn't know what the Blombos rocks were. Anyway, at the end of the day, we meet this lady at the car park, and she turns up, and she brings the rocks out. And as you've seen, the rocks are utterly amazing, or the rock is utterly amazing. And she also had pictures of Blombos. She must have known about.
Yeah.
In fact, we're probably the only people there that didn't know where they were.
Oops.
And anyway, we looked at them and thought, my God, by comparison, the Blombos rocks are rubbish. They're nowhere near as refined. The cuts on this rock we've got are much, much more delicate.
Also keeping in mind that the rock that she showed us was a lot harder.
Oh, much harder than Blombos rocks. I've had a geologist look at this and he says this is harder than ironstone. And he won't, and this, it's quite funny. He's actually a professor of geology. And I said, do you want to come and look at this one? And this is where the story gets interesting. And our professor, who's been backing us for quite some time, said, oh, no, I don't want to see it in person. And that leads me to what happened with this lady. She found the rock in 1990, 1 metre beneath the surface. It is an area for 100 kilometres in every direction. It's only sandstone, but this isn't. This one rock is not sandstone. It's ironstone or harder. And what she did...
For our viewers out there, could you just clarify what ironstone is and where it is on the kind of chart of the
Hardness.
Hardness of stones, yeah. Like,
Oh,
you know, and we
yeah.
know granite is pretty close to diamond. Where would it be on the scale? Do you know?
Just beneath granite. Not
Okay.
by much, I would suggest either. And what's really interesting is such a compact, fine grain. You can barely see the grains, can you? And it's really strong. Now, our geologist friend thinks it's harder than ironstone. Now, what she did was, she did the right thing. She went to the, inverted commas around this, experts. You know those people, don't you, Mark? The ones that do all the degrees and say what's supposed to be said.
Oh,
And
yeah,
it's
I've heard of them.
Yes, we did too, and so did she. She was a mainstream person from the general public. I found something amazing. It obviously doesn't belong because this whole area is sandstone and the markings on it are quite refined and they've been cut in, and some people think there might be two different tools involved. So off she went. The geologist said, my God, this is exotic. It does not belong in this area. Nothing like this should be found in this area. And being 1 metre below the surface, it means it was deposited thousands of years ago. Now, that's very important, ladies and gentlemen, because if you find something in this country that's over 200 years old, we cannot have any metal blade involved in it because the original people do not make metal and they don't dig and they don't mine. So we know already it can't be European, and it certainly can't be rock on rock. You've seen it. I'm sure you'll put the picture up. Anyone that looks at it for 1 second will know you cannot make those markings on ironstone with any form of rock on rock or rock on stick technology. It won't happen. So it has to be a very, very refined technology, very sophisticated. I would suggest tungsten tip blade at the very least, and the sort of technology we're familiar with in the last 50 or 60 years, but not before then. This is far too fine. So the first geologist said, it's amazing. I can't believe it's there. I don't want to deal with it, and walked away. But she didn't give up. She then went and saw an archaeologist, didn't she, Evan?
She did.
She thought, no, I'm not going to back down here because I know this is amazing. I'll get them mainstream to listen. Well, from my understanding of what she said, the archaeologist basically turned and ran the other way. Didn't want to look at it and would have nothing to do with it. And she tried quite a few more times. And then finally, Mark, she spoke to somebody she should have spoken to first. After despairing, she went and saw an original elder, the person who represents the people who were here before Mr. Cook stole this country. And he said two things to her, and I said at the time, they are the only two pieces of information you've been given that are worthwhile. Don't bother going to those white experts anymore. You've now met the right person. And what he said was, this is incredibly genuine, and you were chosen by the spirits to find this, and it's your job to look after it, and when the timing is right, it will come out. I thought, well, finally some common sense amongst all the rubbish. So she basically waited after that for some time until the timing was right and somebody could turn up that could respect this and do this properly. And it turned out, luckily for us, we were in that right timing, weren't we, Evan? Yeah. So what she brought was this particular rock. She'd given up going to mainstream because all they would do was run away and didn't want to talk about it because it didn't fit in. Well, now we've got it. She's going to write a stat deck up, and we're in the process of writing an article. And, of course, we're also in the process of talking about it right now. And then we're going to take this to mainstream science and demand that they respond to it, demand that they look at it. And what's important here is I don't know what tool cut this. I swear to you, if you walk to Bunnings, they don't have Bunnings there, do they?
No, that's just us.
Well, just go to any hardware store, and I swear to you, you would not be able to find the tools that could cut this rock. It would be sophisticated. It would be very, very delicate, and it's cut because the blade's got to be so short, but it's got to cut into one of the hardest rocks on this planet. We're talking about granite and diamonds. This rock is in that category. I don't know what tool could have cut this 100 years ago. I really don't. And remember, we have pictures, and we've got pictures, and we've put these up, and we will. This was found 1 metre beneath the surface. How long does that take to happen? A long, long time. So what we have here is a rock that breaks all the rules. And if this rock is around, then my question is, what technology was involved in on the planet at that time to create this? And the answer is, don't look in the books. You're going to have to look somewhere else. And we think this is part, and we've been seeing this all over the place, Mark, in Australia, of a much more ancient technology that more than likely was more sophisticated than what we have today.
It's absolutely fascinating, Stephen and Evan, because you're putting together a part of a global picture which has been missing. Welcome back to Windows on the World with Stephen and Evan Strong in Australia, and we've been talking about a fascinating artifact that came into their possession, and now we're going to talk about another artifact which they can actually date and seems to be part of some historical timeline. Welcome back to Windows on the World.
Our pleasure. Thank you for having us back. Yeah, before we spoke about this amazingly marked rock, it's got amazing rock markings on three sides, and people can see it, so we won't describe it too much. But we're left with one unanswered question. We know it's not post-Cook. We know it's not original, and we know it's from an ancient technology, but the question is, how ancient? And we think another artifact we've seen and filmed in Egyptians in Australia, Part 3, it's on one of our YouTubes, might answer that question. And we could throw this out to the viewers because it's an unanswered question, by the way. About 2 years ago, we were taken to a site, and this gentleman said, I know where there's a compass. And we all thought, well, what does that mean, Evan?
Yeah.
What's a compass? An Aboriginal compass, original compass, never heard of it. Anyway, he took us to this particular site in the middle of nowhere, and there is an 8-armed compass. Straight lines. Original people don't do straight lines, with a perfectly cut circle in the middle. Now, this is an incredibly hard rock, but the cuts all are about 1 mil across. They go down at 90 degrees, across at 180, and back up at 90 degrees. They're perfect cuts, unbelievably refined. The circle, we've magnified it, and we cannot find one straight edge on the circle. It's a perfect arc. And what has also happened is this particular site, the gentleman who found it called in a professor from Newcastle Uni, an engineer, and he looked at this site and he said, we could not do this in the field today. We could do it in a laboratory by laser cutting the rock, but he has no idea how it was cut. But like a lot of these academics, when they look at this, they say this, and then what they then do is turn their back and run away and don't want to talk about it. So we've got this compass, perfect circle, 8 arms. It's got the letter N marked on it. I think that means north. You don't have to be Einstein to work that out. And we looked at it and we thought, my God, how could this be made? And the answer is there's no obvious answer today. It couldn't have been done. But there was one clue, a very important clue. It is possible, very, very unlikely, that some person has invented some technology the rest of the world doesn't know about and is wandering off in the Australian bush, making bogus compasses and other markings. That is possible. I mean, I'm not going to deny it. It could happen. And he has technology no one in the world has, but he doesn't want to share it. He doesn't want to make money out of it, but he does like making little nefarious markings, doesn't he, Evan?
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere.
And then waiting who knows how long
for someone like us to come along. Yeah.
Yep.
Now, that's possible, Mark. We've got to look at both sides of the story here. We don't want to be biased here. But here's the trick. The compass is 15 degrees east of north. North is not in the right spot. It's 15 degrees off. Now, either you've got one of the most technologically savvy people in the country, is an idiot, wander around the countryside and then makes this particular amazing marking but can't read a compass. Or, well, that is possible. I mean, yeah, it could happen. Pigs could fly. But the second option is this was made by an earlier technology that we don't understand, but it was made at a time when the Earth's magnetic shift was 15 degrees to the east. Now, again, all we have to prove is this did not happen in the last 200 years, and we know it didn't, to once again say, okay, if it's past 200 years, it can't be original of the toolkit they've got now. It could have been earlier if they had a more advanced one, but not now. And it's not from Mr. Cook or post that time. So here We've got another piece of scratching into rock again, very fine cuts again, just like on the rock we saw. So there's a pattern here. But in this case, if we can find out when the Earth's magnetic north was 15 degrees east of where it is now, we've got a date for it. And I would suggest to you, if we can date when this compass was cut into one of the hardest rocks we've ever seen, and here we've got some other markings in another hard rock elsewhere, and the two are only about, what, 25 k's apart, Evan? 30 maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
Not far apart. It's part of a whole region full of this stuff. We can now say, not only do we have an earlier, ancient, sophisticated technology that does not exist today, but secondly, we might be able to work out when this happened. So this story in Australia of earlier technologies is a given. We don't even try and question that now. Our question is maybe or maybe not. We're past that.
It's more when.
When and who. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Was this the Pleiadians we've heard about? Was this the Lemuria we've heard about? Or was it an earlier technology the original people have, then gave up and went back to something simpler? It's one of those three, but what it isn't is what's in the books today. It changes our concept of our civilizations, and it tells us that somewhere way back in the past, this talk of Lemuria and Atlantis and earlier civilizations, it's got its base in fact, because we're just finding artifacts that are what they are. They're ancient, they're in the hardest rocks we can find, and they're done by tools and technology we do not understand.
I think that's a worldwide thing, though, isn't it? It's now becoming apparent that there seems to be these very ancient civilizations, some that appear to have been deliberately wiped out of history, and others that just, as you say, the academics will not accept. So it's a bit of an uphill struggle, but the evidence is kind of overwhelming now, and it's very childish to be stuck in this same groove of that civilization or civilized humanity started between 6,000 and 7,000 years ago. It's just the convenience of throwing these dates around, and it is a bit tedious now, I think, with all the evidence to the contrary. But really appreciate what you're doing to throw some light on this.
I think in one respect too, Mark, that Australia does help a lot, because sometimes they confuse and they say, oh, that could have been an aberration of an earlier technology that took place. And we know that in Europe and in Africa there were metal blades made of different types, whether it be brass, copper and iron ore. And therefore they can always sort of fob it off and sort of make some grey edges around it. Australia is beautiful in one respect, because every book you buy will tell you before Mr. Cook and the British stole this country, and they did, they invaded and stole it, before 1770, nobody was here. The original people have been cut off from the rest of the world for 60,000 years. No one came in, no one came out, and all they had was stick, rock and stone. So what it does is it cuts off the other excuses that they can use in other countries. And that is why in this case, when this lady showed this to academics, their only reaction was to literally turn and run away, because they knew, what am I going to say this time? Oh dear, whatever I say is not going to be acceptable, is it? So I like the way that what we're finding here is definitely part of a world civilization. Ladies and gentlemen, we could put our mortgage on this. We are finding stuff that we are finding in other countries. Now, this rock we found, it looks a lot like the Blombos rock. It definitely does, except this is much more delicate, isn't it, Evan? Yeah. And much more refined. But it's the same story, and the markings are very similar. I think it's the first language, and I think you're going to find that language was spoken in Africa, in Australia, and in America. All of the A's get a tick here, and I think it was the same language throughout. So, yeah, you're right, Mark. I think it does get tedious, but it does get quite humorous when they actually turn their head and run away, doesn't it? It shows you they really are running out of ideas.
It's kind of an indication of where we've come to, really, isn't it? We're kind of, are we on the cusp of finding out who we are, or are these people going to bury it forever, you know?
Well, here's the trick. it's shows like yourself and people like yourself that make sure it doesn't get buried, because we've tried twice in Australia to get into mainstream, and we've gone to the biggest ABC, which is the national broadcaster, and we've been with some of the biggest papers, and we've given them information twice on sites. And on both occasions, on the first time, we were just taken off when they put the news on.
Completely censored.
It's taken off the whole national broadband everywhere in Australia with the second news item one day, and they just took it off within 2 hours. It was a 1 minute 40 section on one of our pieces of archaeology, and the reporter said it's amazing. It's Egyptian, without a doubt. It was taken off in midstream. We tried the Sydney Morning Herald and The Age, considered the two left-wing papers in Australia, with another side, and they just wrote a story about the miners. It's only through shows like yourself that this would ever get out, because we've now officially decided we can no longer try mainstream Australia, even with this rock we've got now. Did you notice we went to you, and we'll go overseas first, won't we, Evan?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Because we know if we go to Australia, those same people will turn their heads and run away again. It doesn't change, does it? So we've got to go to outlets like this.
It's either that or they'll come up with a completely unscientific theory of why it's there.
Oh, well, she did it. The lady did it.
Yeah.
This is what it'll be, mate. I'll tell you now. They're going to tell us this horrible lady that showed us this, she's a nasty piece of work, and she just sat down one day, found this rock and just scratched into it and then presented it to us. That is what they'll tell us. I know that for a fact. Even though she's writing a stat deck, and I've met this woman, haven't we, Evan?
Yeah.
She wouldn't lie if her life depended on it, would she?
No.
We know that as a fact.
Yeah,
she's
yeah,
an
yeah.
honest,
Definitely.
sincere woman that's held this for 20 years waiting for the right time. But she will be attacked. We're told her that. These scoundrels will call her all sorts of things and say that she's made it up, because that's all that's left of them now. They've got nothing left in their bags.
No, that's absolutely true. And the attacks, when they do come, are very one-dimensional, because obviously we get them over here. But they try and throw some kind of doubt on your credibility, but they never actually come up with any contradictory evidence, you know. So, in other words, they can't contradict what you're saying because they've got no proof, and they also can't prove that there's anything wrong with what you are putting forward. So it's all very one-dimensional, quite childish, but it's the reason they do that is it's for simple minds who won't really look too much into it, and most people will go on a superficial level, you know. But I think that is changing, and that's what we're here for. So thanks for sharing that with us and being on Windows on the World, and we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Always our pleasure to talk to you, Mark.
To stand here as a Jew, as a representative of a Jewish organisation which, from the depths of our soul, abhors the unspeakable terror Israel is inflicting on Palestinians, abhors its litany and crimes against humanity. From Deir Yassin and Sabra and Shatila and Carsled and Pillars of the Fence and Prava and 27 house demolitions and Brothers Keeper and Protective Hedge and Shuja'ar. In response to this deeply shameful litany, as a voice for our Jewish organisation, I categorically dissociate ourselves from this Israeli government and from the Israeli armed forces and from the Israeli settlers and from the depths of our being proclaim in sorrow and in anger, but loud and clear, Israel, you do not speak in our name. You do not speak for us. Never shall your crimes be committed in our name, because we are a different Jewish tradition. A tradition deeply and implacably committed to human rights and to freedom and to an end to the blockade and above all to justice to Palestinians. And we make this call to the whole of the Jewish community.
Blogger Chris Spivey continues to shine the spotlight where the mainstream media dare not go. Chris joins us now by webcam. So Chris Spivey, welcome to Windows on the World.
Thank you, Mark.
Well, it's great to have you on, Chris, because there's been huge developments over the last 24 hours. Can you just tell us what happened?
Yeah, well, Sunday night, or well, it was Monday morning actually, about just after 1:15. Big loud knock on the door, which would have woken, because I'm in flats, would have woken everybody up, you know. So I got to the door, and there's 4 policemen there, 3 fellas and 1 woman, and they said, "Oh, can we come in?" I said, "Have you got a woman?" And they said no. I said, "Well, no, you can't come in then." So he said, "We'll arrest you." So he started reading my rights, and in the meantime, Stacey, my daughter, my 18-year-old daughter, has come out of her bedroom. She's heard what's going on. She's hysterical. I've turned around and sort of calm her down and tell her to go back in the room and everything will be all right. And he just walked in, and followed by his 3 mushies. So anyway, they said, you know, where we will come to see his computers and whatnot. So I said, "No, you're not on." He said, "Yeah, we are. It was under section 32. So I said, "Well, show me section 32. Now, in the meantime, the woman policeman has already gone into Stacey's bedroom and started searching in there, and I'm just left with these 3 thugs who've got me surrounded and are in my face, you know. Very, very rude, very, very loud. So I think I'm demanding to see a copy of section 32, and they're not showing me. And then again, you know, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. We can take you down to the station and search anyway, or you can sort of shut up and be a good boy, and we take you down to the station once we've finished our search." So obviously, with my daughter so upset, I wasn't going to go for, you know, the down the station and they search while I wasn't here kind of thing. But in the meantime, I say I'm still demanding to see this copy of section 32. So finally, one of them just sort of flipped a bit of paper over, just so I can see the corner. He wouldn't let me hold it, read it myself. It made it difficult, but I saw straight away that it said, you know, they can only search the premises if it's an indictable offence. So I pointed that out to him, and then first he went, no, we can, you know, we're allowed to do it, we're allowed to do it. I'm saying, "You're not." I said, "You're not on. This is illegal. You're not having, this search isn't going on." Although the woman was already searching through my daughter's clothes in the bedroom where my 1-year-old grandson's asleep. Anyway, at this point, they became unsure of themselves, and one of them sloped off, obviously to make a phone call back to the station.
Yes.
And I'm going, "No, you're not on. This is harassment," which they said they arrested me on suspicion of harassment. Well, I said, "It's not an indictable offence." I said, "So this is illegal." So anyway, number 3 mush comes back after phoning the station or whatever, and he said, "Yeah, we're allowed to do it. We're allowed to do it." All right. I say they repeat again, "We can do it the easy way or the hard way," and so I had no choice. Now, I wasn't allowed to be in here while they were searching. I had to be in my daughter's bedroom, I say, which was thoroughly searched by this police woman. My daughter was very, very, very upset and very, very frightened. Thankfully, my grandson, he didn't wake up. But they only searched her room and the living room, and that took about, I don't know what, 2.5 hours, 3 hours.
They got here at 1:30. They said they started the search. They started the search about 1:45, and they left here at 3:55.
3:55. So however long that is. But they didn't search my bedroom. They didn't search the bathroom or the kitchen. And they told my daughter to grow up. They kept calling her mate. They kept calling me mate. I said, "I'm not your mate." Just incredibly rude, incredibly noisy, and incredibly aggressive. I say this was, you know, sort of 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning, which isn't a reasonable hour to search. I said, "I want to make a complaint." So it's, you know, you can do that with everything. You can do it when you're down the station. You can do it when you're down, which is too fucking late then, Mark, you know?
Yeah.
the damage is done. Anyway, they sort of carted me off. Now, this is another thing. They didn't even know whether the Greater Manchester Police was going to interview me or the Essex Police. So I didn't get interviewed till 11 o'clock. So why come round so early? You know, when I was just locked up in a cell for hours on end, you know?
Yeah, Chris, just to clarify that. So because this incident related to an article you wrote, which may have included that police force, they were going to be there, or you were going to be driven to Manchester. Can you just clarify that? Because that sounds mad.
I can that because it got very, very confusing. Now, I didn't know anything about the Greater Manchester Police interviewing me until I went to see the doctor because I'm a diabetic. Okay, and
sorry, this was last night. Just to clarify that, yeah.
This was Monday morning, yeah.
Yes,
Early hours of Monday morning. It'd be about 10 o'clock, something like that, in the morning, I say, because I'd been in the cell for... Huh?
You left Tuesday morning, you got back Wednesday, it's now Thursday.
I'm losing track of dates.
Yeah, I thought so. It's okay.
Yeah, it was yesterday morning, mate.
Yeah.
Okay, yesterday morning.
That's fine, yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And I had to see the doctor. They insisted I see the doctor to take my blood sugar and that because I didn't have my tablets with me.
Yeah.
And it was her who told me. She said the delay is they don't know who's going to deal with it, the Greater Manchester Police or Essex Police. Now that to me that sounded like if Greater Manchester were going to deal with it, or they didn't know at that stage who was going to deal with it, then it sounded like I would have been taken to Manchester.
Well, that sounds really mad because if Greater Manchester Police had alerted Essex Police would have been acting as the agency for Greater Manchester Police. So it wouldn't matter because they're both the police.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that just sounds completely and utterly mad. And as you're saying, it sounds very disorganised and they haven't followed any due process by the sound of this, have they?
It was just kind of almost like a spur of the moment thing, Mark. Do you know what I mean? I say it doesn't take long to get a search warrant. Why didn't they get a search warrant? But as we were saying earlier, before we came on, for harassment, which isn't an indictable offence, they have to give you 2 warnings first. And I've had no warnings, see. So I'm thinking, well, probably they couldn't get a search warrant. And this is why they did it on the bully boy tactics, you know.
Sorry, Chris, to interrupt you, but did they define whether this was internet harassment or actual harassment? Because they're two very separate things as well.
The internet wasn't mentioned at all, mate. It wasn't mentioned at all. Yeah, that's it. They arrested me under suspicion of harassment, but then when asked again...
I asked why it was, and they said, we've not got to tell you anything because he's an adult.
Okay.
Sorry, what did you want? They don't have to tell you anything because you're an adult.
I asked because I was left on my own, and I said, can I know why he's been arrested? They said, we've not got to tell you anything, he's an adult.
So because you're an adult, they don't have to tell you.
They was incredibly rude to her and incredibly aggressive to her.
I was crying and they're telling me to grow up. They told me that I clearly don't care. I asked them not to slam doors. They told me that I clearly don't care about my son because I had a cigarette. I was having a cigarette out my window.
So they were profiling you in your own house at the same time as harassing you?
Yeah.
I said I wanted to go to sleep. They stand in the kitchen. He went, no, go to sleep. Why am I going to go to sleep when I've got a full-grown man standing there? This is at 3 o'clock in the morning. I've been to sleep.
I said, but he wasn't even a proper search, Mark. They only did her bedroom, rifled through all her clothes and that. I never even went in my bedroom, never went in the bathroom, never went in the kitchen.
Because they went to lift up...
Almost like they got bored of looking, if you like.
Sounds like it, Chris, yeah.
They went into Dad's room, they went to lift up the handle, but all my clothes are in Dad's room, so I went, no, I need to go there. They went, well, we weren't going to search in there anyway.
So they've come round to nick you for harassment, but they haven't give you a warning, and they haven't really told you what the thing's about.
No.
And they want to search the house, but they don't want to search your room.
They didn't search my room, they didn't search the kitchen, and they didn't search the bathroom. I say almost like they thoroughly went through my Stacey's clothes.
Oh,
Had them all out the cupboards, you know, everything, like, and looking in purses and everything. God knows what they was looking for. And never so much. I say like Stacey said, I didn't see it, but Stacey wanted to get a pair of jeans on because she had a pair of shorts on, and
he's going at the handle.
He's trying to pull the handle. Well, the handles are turned around the other way because of the dogs. Because the dogs, you know, they jump up and then they get in the bedroom and whatnot and get on the bed. So he's trying to push it down apparently, and he couldn't get in. So Stacey said, "I want to get my jeans out of there," and he said, "Oh, I didn't want to go in there anyway," you know. And
they were going to take her internet.
Yeah, they was going to take the photo and everything.
You see, I find this very confusing, Chris, because really, if they were going to go after you, I thought they would bring maybe a case of defamation or something. It just sounds so haphazard, doesn't it?
Libel. I say if you know, I'm wrong about what I say in all my articles, sue me for libel.
Exactly.
Not harassment. How can I harass someone when I write on my own site, Mark?
This, you see, this is where I can see the due process of law has been breaking down for quite some time, because I've been studying it for years, and I've seen this. It's this, like the system doesn't know how to use its own laws anymore. But we see this going through everything, and this is what you've reported in your blog, really. A lot of it is about this fact that the society that we've got and the system of law and order, or the golden rule of law, which should apply to everybody, is completely broken. And we've just got these corporate thugs enforcing it on behalf of corporations, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it was. I say, 3 of them. They was around, and they was in my face, Mark, and you know, they wasn't listening to me. They wasn't listening to a word I was saying. And I say, it was either like, you know, you can stay here and be a good boy, or we take you down the station and do it anyway. And that was what it was all about. I didn't sign it. I said, I want to make a complaint. Then when I got down the station, I said, I want to make a complaint. And it was all, yes, later, yes, later, yes, later. And I didn't actually get to make the complaint till I left. I say, it was quite obvious that when I insisted on seeing a copy of Section 32, they then became, I would say nervous, but unsure of themselves, you know?
Yes. I found this, Chris.
I said to Stacey, can you record this on her mobile phone? And they said if she records it, they'll take the phone. Which is, you're allowed to record anything in your own.
You are allowed to record anything, and that's on their own website. The Metropolitan Police allow you to record them in public after much confrontation between members of the public and the police, as we know. It's your right to be able to record the
exactly,
police.
But they said they'd take it. And the thing is, Mark, she was going to be here on her own once I left and that. And that was her only form of communication. So we couldn't risk having her phone, no matter it was illegal. You know, I say that we'll sort it out later, and that's not good enough. That's not good enough, mate. So she couldn't record it for the simple fact that she was frightening enough as it was, you know, without being unable to contact anybody.
Yeah. So just to clarify this, Chris, so when you got to the station, they interviewed you for quite a long time.
They left me in a cell for a long time, aren't they?
Right, okay.
They said you'd be interviewed if they come back for diabetes tablets, and I'd asked him to leave me alone, and he looked at his watch and went, he'll be interviewed about 9 AM. I went, can you tell my dad that I love him? They went, yeah, might do.
They never did.
And they never did.
But it was about 11 o'clock the time I finally got interviewed. I think I saw the doctor about 10:15. Because I asked her what the time was, and she nodded 2 o'clock up on the wall. And so I think it was about 10:20, something like that. And I say then it must have been about 11, 11:15. But it was CID who interviewed me, 2 CID fellas. Now, why would 2 CID mushes interview me for a harassment charge? And it was obvious what they was getting at, Mark. That the terrorist laws and that. You know, do I belong to any party? How do I feel about soldiers? And all that old bollocks, you know. And it is old bollocks, mate. They're fucking scumming them out of order, and they ain't getting away with it. They ain't getting away with it.
I'm really glad I've spoken to you, Chris. for people who haven't seen your work, I'd recommend them to look at your site, and obviously loads of people do anyway. But what you've just described to me, apart from anything else, is a description of the lack of due process and incompetence of the police. And really, to treat people with that amount of disrespect, I think it proves everything that us so-called conspiracy theorists are saying about the society we're living in.
Yeah, and when did telling the truth become against the law? You know, make me the bad guy. All I'm trying to get the truth out there, and there has not been one person to date, Mark, who has been able to refute the evidence that I put up on the Woolwich hoax. You know, I get attacked in comments, you know, and trolls and whatnot, but it's always about, oh, he's a thug, he's a right winger, he's a left winger, he's this. Yeah, you know, I've been threatened with beheading and whatnot, you know. The thing is, Mark, I say, no one has been able to refute it. You know, and I was talking to these two CRD fellas, and they was, you know, completely blank. They didn't want to know, and they're meant to be policemen, but they didn't want to know. Well, I made a complaint when I left the station yesterday, which was supposedly given to their inspector. I don't know whether it was or not, but certainly I know the complaint was there because I signed it, and I made the sergeant who booked me out. I made her add to it because there wasn't the detail that I wanted in there, do you know?
Yeah.
And then she told me that I had to get in touch with the Independent Police Commission, which I did this morning. And I've sent that off. So, but funny enough, when I was getting booked out and I said I want to make a complaint, and she said, yeah, you have to go to the IPC. There was another desk sergeant, sat next to her, and he turned and smiled, and I said, yes, mate, you know, didn't you? Because there's fuck all independent about it, you know?
Exactly. We've had quite a few instances of the IPCC, and yes, there is nothing independent about it at all. It's merely there to just bury complaints from the public, unfortunately. But there was a report on the Metropolitan Police in 2003 called Operation Tiberius, which stated that the Metropolitan Police was inherently corrupt and could not be changed. So
I read that, yeah.
Yeah, but it's actually worth putting it into a statutory declaration along with your evidence. With your evidence that you've presented in that article and your other articles on this subject we're talking about, if that's in the form of a statutory declaration, it has to be refuted properly in law. So in other words, they can't just come round and say you're harassing somebody and not really know what they're doing. You go statutory declaration. Those are the only known facts in this matter. You are served with that. And the only way forward now is to take this matter to court and refute it. You know,
yeah,
that's the highest form of law, you know. But yeah, I really appreciate what you're doing, Chris. And so you're settling back into home again. You're okay, yeah?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm on bail. I haven't been charged with anything. No offence whatsoever.
That's totally ridiculous. How can you be on bail when you've not been charged with anything?
You've seen the conditions. You've seen the conditions attached to it, and you've seen that there is no charge on there whatsoever. I've got to go back on September 5th. But you know, it's all bollocks, mate. It's bollocks. I say all that they wanted my computer to see what I know. That's what it was all about. And to stop me from publishing anymore.
You see, if they'd have actually followed due process, they could have actually used anti-terror laws to confiscate the computer. They could have that. I think in law they could have done that. Whether it's right or wrong is beside. You know, I'm not saying that right or wrong here, but it seems to be that they're unaware of their own system of law completely. That's what baffles me. They haven't even used the law against you, you know?
Yeah, well, like I say, Mark, you know, as we discussed earlier, I haven't had any warnings for harassment because I haven't been harassing. Let me make that quite clear. I haven't harassed no one, okay? And also, incidentally, to do with the harassment laws, that it's not harassment if you're trying to prevent or solve a crime, looking into a crime being committed. Yeah, and it's not an offence, is it, mate? No, it's not.
He left just right after you woke up as well.
What?
He left right after you left, but he woke up right after you left.
He did because he misses me. Yeah. So, do you know, they can't be allowed to get away with this, Mark. I say, but I'm not strong on the law, and I don't really want a solicitor because we know they're all useless.
I don't think that's advisable, but I mean, I think that the statutory declaration route is certainly something that they have to take notice of, because you can ask them to see the duty solicitor, and you can ask to say, is there any problem or is there any controversy about the evidence that I'm presenting here in this statutory declaration?
Perhaps we can talk about that later.
Yeah, no, I'd love to talk to you again, Chris, and I really do appreciate what you do, and it's very brave of you what you've done, and we're all trying our best to change things for the better. Amongst what is, we're up against people who have lost their minds. I think they've been changed.
Most certainly have. And I say, you've only got to go back 30 or 40 years ago, and it was comforting to a lot of people to have a policeman walking around. Now, anybody, no matter who they are, when they see a policeman, they just want to move away, even though they've done nothing wrong. They just don't want to be near. And they are intimidating. I mean, they didn't intimidate me, but you can see how they can intimidate a lot of people.
Yes, they're trained.
They're very in your face, and they're very rude, and there's no flexibility, no reasoning with them. And I say, for someone who maybe hasn't got a stronger personality as me, you can see it, how people get backed into a corner,
Oh yes, they rely on that. But no, I'd like to thank you for that, Chris, and thanks for all your work, thanks for what you're doing, and it's great to contact you at last, and thanks for being on Windows on the World, and I'm sure all the people out there will be so glad to hear that you're okay.
Yeah, I'm fine, mate, I'm fine. Thank you, Mark.
Cheers, Chris.
Bye. See you later, bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us on Windows on the World. Remember, keep watching those, watching us, watching Windows on the World. We'll see you 9 p.m. Sunday GMT.